Microsoft just laid off 1,500 people, blaming the AI wave. You could be at risk for a layoff if you don't use AI to your advantage. That's when I started using
I'm live. How is everyone doing today? Hello, Carrie Lynn Leonard. How are you today? I saw you were visiting Kathy today, helping Kathy out. I'm here. Hello, Gladys. I'm going to try and I'm just making sure that I can see everything. And I have everything set up. Okay, so we have a few in here. Okay. So what I have in front of me is the block that, oh, I just have to get out of something here. Sorry, I can't see something. This is, okay, there we are. So this is the block that I was talking about in my last video, and this is a Carol Doak FPP pattern, and it is a snowflake pattern. It's from 2015. Well, I guess I should say welcome. I'm Shirley, and just a minute here. Suppose you want to see who I am, eh? Here I am. Anyway, the block that you just saw was, I did manage to complete one full block. Took me a while. Took me a few, some things to get straight in my head about it, but I managed to get it all done, and I think I have it straight in my head now. The pattern itself, there should be a link in the description box below the video that will take you to the link for this particular block. I'm going to switch down to the desk again because that's where I'm going to be most of the time today anyway. So anyway, when you download the pattern from Carol Doak, this is what you will get. There's no colored pictures. There are black and white ones. Now, I decided that I was going to use two colors just like she did, and I chose a blue snowflake pattern and a white tone-on-tone star pattern. And they're both, like, the white is a print as well. If you plan on making this block, I would suggest that you use solids, because I did get confused in some of the places, and don't, if you want to use a print like I did, two different ones, just make sure it's not a directional print or something that you're going to worry about which way when you cut out your pieces, which way the direction is going to go. So that's my first selection. So she has listed here that it's a 12-inch block, and she has a cutting list right here. So if you are really, hi Mary Jane, if you are really into paper piecing and you do it your way or whatever, go ahead and follow her instructions here. In the printout that she gives you, this is a finished size 42 by 42. There's borders around it, and she gives all the instructions at the bottom. I'm only making a table runner, and I am using just 2 colors, and I won't be reversing it. This top one is the one that I am making. And then she gives you for the reverse. So instead of blue here, you'll have white here, and then your blue will be in the white section. So it's just a reverse colors. The sizes that she has listed here, those are the sizes that you will cut your fabric pieces out of, and she's given you location 4, and the only way you're going to be able to tell what location 4 is by looking at the stitching template. So position 4, what I'm assuming is that she means this section right here on the paper piecing stitching template. So that's, and I'm assuming that B4 and A4 are going to be the same color. And I'm going to go through how I do mine. I didn't cut her instructions here or here. I used my own. So now the block itself, which is 12 inches finished. Thank you, Gladys. The block that I'm making, it's 12 inches. But each section that you're going to be making is 6.5. So this is the section. So if you are making and stitching through your paper, you're going to need to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. That will give you 1 block. And that's only 1. So if you are making more than 1 block, if you're going to make 3 blocks of this, which is what I am, you would need 4 times 3, 12. 12 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, I think 12. Anyway, because you only have 2 templates. Because I've cut mine from freezer paper, I can reuse these again. So I only have, no, I guess I cut 4 because I usually work on 4 sections at a time, and I do them. So when I've finished my 4 pieces that I cut and printed out, I will have 1 whole block. I do have sections A and B done, and this is what they look like when they are finished. Sorry, got that turned. So this is the block itself. from these two pattern pieces or stitching templates. So if you look at the pattern, you can see where this is one section, so I need to make 4 of these sections. Hi, Iron Stitches, Tracy. Hope everyone's doing great today. Okay, now if I miss some of the chat or whatever, I'm sorry. I have to keep my brain focused on what I'm going to be explaining here, because this one is a lot of pieces, but it's not that difficult once you know what the process is. So once I've made these 2 sections, like 1 and 1, I have another 2 done. And now this is one section here. I have another 2 that when I make the next 2 and have these 2 stitched together, they're going to go like this. Now the next 2 that you're going to make, or the next 2 blocks that you're going to make, you will be, if you look at the picture here, you can see where this is the top section and this is the bottom section. So what you'll actually be doing is the next section that you make, and once you have these all stitched together, you just turn your blocks, and I am missing one of these, but if I put these together like this and this one together, so once I get the 2 sections done, I have to turn these, and I have to turn it again, and then it will be in that position right there. Hi, Shirley and all in the chat. I already downloaded and printed that block. I love it. Now I have to find the time to make it. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Terry. That's okay. Cap blocks is okay. So that is the basic construction once you have all your pieces put together. So now I'm just going to take and put these back the way they go. That's B block. That's A block. And I haven't taken my papers off yet because I just didn't do it yet. So there's my A blocks and there's my B blocks. Okay, now if I would have followed the cutting instructions as she would have said, I probably would have wasted a lot of fabric that I found the way I cut my fabrics using the templates. I saved quite a bit of fabric because of the simple fact of the shapes that are in this particular block. She's given you the printout, and she's also given you a coloring page to color in the colors. Now, for my example here, I colored in the blue for this section, and I used gray, and that would determine the one block. So what did I do first? Well, first of all, I printed, see what else did she give you here? She's given you the stitching template, and I've done a few little things that when I read the instructions I couldn't quite figure it out, but I did put it together. Hi Linda, nice to have you here today. Hope I don't confuse anybody too much here. My brain can't think in reverse, so I have to switch everything And I don't think people's brains were meant to think in reverse. So instead of getting my brain to think in reverse, I make this in the right, or the way I want to see it. With the stitching templates, that's fine. That makes sense. So I did print them out. But what I did on them, there is a section at the top, and basically A and B block are the same. They're just reversed. They're mirror image of one another. And what I found was that on B block, they have 16 and 17 in this top corner here. I've got a bit of a glare. Maybe I can get rid of that a bit. How's that? Can you see that better now? But anyway, on section A or section B, and she doesn't label label each one of these pieces. And that's where I've made a change as well. And the changes I made were, instead of, if you look over here, 15 and 15, but if you look at the next section, you'll see 16, 17, and then over here, 16 looks like it's missing, but it's not. She's just taken this and combined it and made it 17 on section A. So the first thing I did when I printed it out on paper. And then I labeled here it is here. I labeled my printout. These are just extra copies here. I labeled and I put A's on all of the A blocks, and those are found up at the top here. That's section A. And that was the first thing, it was confusing to me. Well, I need to cut 2 of those now. Which one is for block A and which one is for, or section A? And so it was like, okay, that confused me. So what I did to stop my brain from trying to think things through, I just decided, okay, this is B block. So I labeled all of these B. And all of these ones A. And I am going to be combining on B block, or B section, I'm going to combine this and make it 1. So instead of having a 16 and a 17, I would cross this out, and then I'm going to change this to 16. Whoops, I broke my pencil. So I would make 16. And they are exactly the same size. I've put stitched everything together, and the way I did it came out great, I think so. Anyway, what did I do next? Well, I printed out 4 copies and I printed them out on freezer paper because that's all I'll need to make the 3 blocks that I want to make, because I can reuse these papers. So I won't have to print out any more than that. The next thing is my brain said, okay, where are my colors? So which are my colors? Now, what I did was I took the main block, which she gives you. So now I can set this one aside. And to make my brain not think in reverse, what I did was I printed out another copy and I printed it out in reverse. That way I know when I put my colors in here This is my stitching template. This is my fabrics. And that should be a total mirror image. And your fabrics, you'll stitch from this side. Your fabric is on here, and you'll be looking at the right side of the fabric. So when I color in my areas, I know that that is where my colors are going to be when I stitch this together. So what I did from there, once I printed it in reverse, of course, because my brain doesn't compute sometimes, of all the sections, do I have one that's not colored in? I'm not sure if I did or not. Oh yeah, here it is here. So anyway, what I did was you'll see little black dots here on mine. And those little black dots are the reverse numbers, because when I printed it out, I could see 2 is reversed, 4 is reversed, 5 is reversed, and it's like, okay, my brain doesn't work in reverse. So what I did was I went through and I wrote down A5, and then I blacked that out. So when I look at this, I am looking at it, not trying to figure out if number 10 is 0, 1, or whatever it was. It's like everything in my brain thinks in the right way. So all this is just a reversed copy that I have adapted it to my brain. So that's why I did that. The next thing I did was I looked at the picture that she gave us, and I now can see that this is exactly this. So my brain now, instead of trying to reverse things, has now, looking at this and this, it is now the way I can understand it. So when I colored in my sections, I used gray instead of white, just so that I could see it better. And so when I looked at the diagram here, and that's where I figured out that B section was the same as A section. They're identical, they're just reversed. If I turn this way, then I can see that this portion of the block is just this flipped. I'm not sure which way it's flipped, but when you flip it, you can see that this triangle right here is exactly the same as right here, and this section is correct. So now that I know that I'm looking at everything, that this is what it's going to look like, and it matches the picture and everything, then what I did was I said, okay, I've got everything. I colored in the sections according to what this was, so now I know where my colors are going to go. Then what I did at the bottom was my dark colors on section B. I listed them. B1 is dark, B5 is dark, B6 is dark. And I couldn't, well, 2, 4, 2, 8, I don't know what that means, but I just couldn't figure. I thought, do it the way I can understand it. Is everybody following me okay, or am I totally confusing everybody? Okay, so I listed my dark for B block, light for B block, and then my dark and light for A block. Now I had to go ahead and cut my fabrics. I could have used her diagram, but that totally confused me, so I said I'm going to do it the way it makes sense to my brain. And my brain says that from section, I printed these out here. Where did I put them here? Okay, so I've made some notes here. Okay, I printed one copy on paper. I labeled it the stitching template. I labeled my sections A and B. And for one block, I'd need 4 copies of freezer paper, or you would need 4 copies of your choice of paper, whether you're stitching through or not. Now, to cut the templates the way I'm going to show you, if you want to follow her directions, that's fine. Now, it depends. If you're making it just out of 2 solid colors, if you're using solid fabrics, ignore everything I'm saying because it won't make sense, or just go for it. But with me, when I cut my templates, if I want to cut my fabrics with the right side of the fabric facing me when I put my template down, I will reverse it and use this piece to make my templates. If you want to cut your fabrics with the wrong side of your fabric facing up, you will cut them from this, because this is the right side, this is the wrong side. The other thing that you might want to do too is 6 and 9. They look similar. And so what I did, I don't know whether I did it here. Well, mine, I've got B9. But sometimes if you're looking at this and you turn your paper one way, the 6 is going to look like a 9. So a lot of times I'll put a little line underneath the 6 and a line underneath the 9, so that if I happen to turn my paper, that 9 is not going to look like a 6. And that has happened to me. So now, how did I come up with the templates that I made? Now, I have the luxury that I can take this and put it into my program and draw or put my shapes in and everything and go through the process. Pardon me. Before I had that option, I used to cut out my templates. And what I did is that I'm going to be cutting my fabrics with, hi Kathy, welcome. I'm going to be cutting my fabrics with the right side up, because I do plan on making this, and I do plan on using a printed fabric. And if I don't do that, if I don't cut my fabrics with the right side up, if it's a directional print, I want to be able to cut my fabrics so that if there's something that's wonky, I can place my template on there and position it so that everything is in the right direction. Because each one of these blocks is going to be flipped, and these ones are going to be flipped. So directional fabric is going to be a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to try to do it. So that's my suggestion there. So from my printed copy, before I colored this in, I went and printed off a copy on freezer paper. This is white freezer paper. And you're going to see my boo-boo, my boo-boo when I go on to the next steps. So why did I print it out on freezer paper? And why is it white? Well, I had this great idea, and I didn't follow through on it. But when I do my templates, whether I'm cutting right or wrong side, I do have a partial one done. I have cut my pieces apart. This is on freezer paper. Now, in previous videos, I've done this before, but I used fabrics that, okay, I cut them with the wrong side because I used the template in its original, or the piece in its original form. This one is in reverse. So what I'm looking at here is the right side of the fabric, because that is stitched on. Freezer paper is going to allow me to iron these sections onto something that I can cut out templates. So what I did in the beginning is, all I did was cut. I've already done a section off to the side, and actually it is, my A pieces are right here. These are all the pieces. Now if you look at this, you will see I have cut out each section. You don't have to do this. You can just cut out that A section. And then when you cut out your piece of fabric, just make sure you cut 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch all the way around. But surely, being the, OCD, I have to put that on, and it shows up better here. But here's my A10 section that I cut out of my piece, and I ironed it onto another piece of freezer paper. I drew a line 3/8 of an inch all around, and I used scrap freezer paper. This one was white, so now I can see that this is my A10 section. It has enough fabric around it, and not only that, I have it ironed onto a piece of a baking sheet. It's freezer paper. It's on there. If I need to cut out more pieces to cut my fabrics, I can just take this to my printer and make a copy of it. And that's the other thing I found. There is no test square on this particular pattern. That's one thing I noticed as well. So I couldn't find a test square, so I had to take my ruler, and when I printed this out, I took and measured, and this should be, oh, no, I have to check, I have to measure the finished. So when I measured from the tip to tip, it's 6 inches. So that works out right. And if you measure here, that's not going to make sense, because that's not going to be 6.5. Will not be. But because it's 4 sections, 6.5, 6.5, take away 1/2 inch, that comes out to a 12.5 inch unfinished block. Now when I measured this side, and you have to measure the finished, and that was the solid line on here. So that from here to here measures 6 inches. So that's how I determined that I had actually cut out or printed, that my printer was printing at the proper size. Otherwise my block is not going to measure 12.5 inches unfinished. So how I made my templates, and I did this right from the beginning, is when I cut out my pattern pieces, my fabric template pieces, I always start out cutting at the highest number. That way I don't mess any of the pieces up. So I'll just take this, and with my little ruler, I am going to just cut along the line between what I've made into B16 and B15. Now, my rotary cutter, there we are. And remember, this is on freezer paper. You don't have to use freezer paper. You can do this on regular paper, and the only thing is, if you use regular paper, you won't be able to just iron it on. You will have to glue it on. So now I am going to cut along that 1/4 inch mark. And as I cut out, and I've done this before when I first started out, before I had the opportunity to make my own templates in my software program. So this is the piece for B16. What it has seam allowance on the outside, but it doesn't have seam allowance here. Every piece that you're cutting has to have seam allowance beyond the inside solid line. So what I did was I took, let's see if I got, we'll use this, a scrap piece of freezer paper, and I'll tell you why I'm using 2 different colors of freezer paper. You probably notice it there, is that, okay, so now I need 1/4 inch plus a little extra. Just going to grab my little thing here so I can press. And I need my, where did I put it? I need my baking sheet. What did I do with my baking sheet? One moment, please. Don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's here someplace. Anyway, I need a baking sheet. I found my ruler. I need a baking sheet. Okay. Oh, probably look underneath here. Okay, this one's brown, but I usually use the dollar store ones. Freezer paper, plastic coated. It will stick to this baking sheet, but it'll peel off. Freezer paper. This one has, it's plastic coated. I see Mary. Where do I see Mary? Am I missing something? Kathy, who did you say hello, Mary? I'm not seeing on my chat. Not unless she's up further. Did I miss somebody? Huh. Oh, Mary Jane. Okay. Got it. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. I just wanted to make sure. I thought it could have been Mary Webb. Okay, so there is my B16 piece. So I'm going to just press it on there with my iron, and everything's going to stick together. Remember, if you use paper, you'll have to glue this. But now it's stuck to my freezer paper. I can peel it off. So what I need beyond this line is I need a little extra. So on all my pieces, and this is going to be for whatever I cut out of these sections. From that solid line, I am going to take my ruler And just from that solid stitching line, I am going to add 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch for seam allowance, and I lost my, oh, here it is. 1/4 of an inch for seam allowance, plus 1/8 of an inch for extra fabric. And I'm going to do that all around this template. So 1/4 of an inch plus 1/8 is 3/8. So I've lined my ruler up along that solid black line there. And on this side, I have 1/4 of an inch seam allowance here and here, but I'm going to measure from this line and add 3/8 of an inch. And we're going to come up with some funny odd shapes. And this one is a good one. Now you can see when I drew that on there that my line extends way out there. And I'm not going to cut that off right now. I'm just going to leave it on. Now that is one stitching template. When I get all of my templates cut out, let's do another one here. And we'll go to B15, which is the next piece. And so I'm going to cut along the line between B14 and 15. And I'm not going to cut this all out, but B15, maybe I will cut it all out. B14, now there's B6. I want to go down to B13. So I'm going to cut B13. And then on those outside edges, I'm just going to cut along the dotted line, which is the 1/4 inch mark. Let's just cut that all the way off. Now, if you don't do your FPP like this, am I making any sense at all? There's B13. Now I need to go to B12. So I'm going backwards instead of forwards. So 12. 11. Now 10 is not going to have any little indication for seam allowance. So, okay, now 9. 9 is going to show me part of the seam allowance. And 8. See, this doesn't take all that long. And now I'll go to B6. And I will always be looking to the right. If you're left-handed, you'll probably look to the left. But when I'm on section 6, I'm reading section 6 and cutting it over here. So now I need B5. Now those outside lines, if you worry about having edges that are cut on the bias, because they usually tell you in quilting that you should always have your outside edges of your block or your quilt, the outer edges should not be on the bias because the bias is going to stretch. And those lines that I can see on there will be an indication when I place my fabric on, or when I place that template onto my fabric. It's going to tell me that that is an outside edge. And how can I tell that it's an exact outside edge is because when I printed those on there and blacked that out, when I have this facing me, I can see that there's a diagonal line there, and there is a straight of grain there, and a crosswise grain here. So you'll have your lengthwise and then your crosswise. So then I don't have any bias edges on the outside. I'll only have bias here. The inside pieces, it really doesn't matter. But this is going to tell me when I place it like this, if I cut my fabric like this, the outside edge is going to be bias. And when I compare it to B6 here, I can look at this and see, okay, I don't have to worry about that because this is a bias anyway. But if I was looking at these sections, anything that has an outside section or an outside seam allowance on here, that's going to tell me probably should place that on my fabric so that I can read it in the proper direction. Everything else doesn't matter. It's just those outside edges, if you're concerned about that. Is everybody following me? Need to take a break here. I need a sip of coffee. Sorry you can't see me, but my other cameras have been messed up ever since they did an update. Okay, I'm still here. So now I have all these, oh, that's not, okay, I have all these funny little pieces now. And so I will go through, place each one on, and bring back in my thing. Use scraps of freezer paper. I mean, don't throw them away because they are good for this. And even if it's got printing on it, doesn't matter. So there's section B2. Add my 3/8 inch to all cut edges or all dark edges. And a lot of times they'll say cut a 1/2 inch. 3/8 I have found is plenty. So 3/8 of an inch from that section. So there is my template for fabric B2. And then, of course, okay, great, Kathy. So that's all you need. And remember, everything from here on in is, I don't have to think in reverse. I don't have to try to make my brain follow something that it wasn't meant to be. It's like looking in a mirror and trying to figure out, or have you ever tried to back up? You know, look in your rear view mirror and back up. It's like left is right, right is left. And it's like, that's why I never back up. I never back into a parking stall, is because I give truck drivers who have to back up, because, and especially if you're hauling a trailer, because they will absolutely, it absolutely confuses me. And they have to look in their rear view mirror and back up. And the same thing, like, which way are your wheels going? And it's like, oh, everything goes the opposite. So foundation paper piecing sort of reminded me of trying to back a semi or a trailer into a spot. So I would do that with all my little template pieces here. If you didn't want to make your own templates, you now have little pieces that you can just take if you're cutting from scraps and want to cut one piece at a time. That's fine. You just take that little template. It's got freezer paper or plastic coated. That you can put onto your fabric, and where you don't have 3/8 of an inch away from the cut or that inside line, you just cut 3/8 of an inch away. And it will, by adding the 3/8 of an inch all the way around, I know exactly what's that's going to fit on the piece of fabric that I want to cut. Now I'm just going to set these off to the side. Now I had a brilliant idea. Because those templates, once I had put these on white freezer paper, these ones were on dark freezer paper. They all have 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch around them, so I know everything's going to be big enough. I cut a piece of baking sheet 8.5 by 11 because if I need more pieces, and I did because I was making 4 at a time, and if I was using the one template, I'd have to keep taking my template off and placing it on, and I cut single layer, but I wanted to cut more pieces at a time. So I thought, oh, brilliant idea. Let's just iron those freezer paper onto a baking sheet and see if all those pieces will fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And they did. And I can take them off if I need to. And I would take a picture of this first of all, so that if I had to go back and print more out, I would know where to place my pieces so that they fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Where's my... Okay, I just need to press that back on, because the next thing I have to show you is my brilliant idea kind of came to a halt when I did the next thing. But I learned something. I learned to print the first step that I did on white freezer paper or white copy paper and glue it onto the freezer paper. And I would use the dark freezer paper. Because when I took that to my printer and copied it, where's my sheet? Okay, what did you do with it, Shirley? See, I keep losing things. And it's here someplace. Because... oh, here it is. Ta-da! I can't see some of my lines. Except when I put the white freezer paper or white copy paper onto a piece of brown freezer paper, I can see my cut lines for my templates. And that is my template that I can cut out. And so, lesson learned. If you're going to copy white freezer paper when you do it this way, just make sure that there's enough of a difference. Now, I can still go in and I can draw my 3/8 of an inch away, but I could have, I could save myself time by not doing that. So we'll just draw my 3/8 of an inch line away from there, and I have a copy that I can actually see where I'm supposed to be cutting out my template. So that was my lesson learned. Now, for B section that we showed you here, you would go ahead and take your templates and take them off and use B templates and make as many copies of those fabric templates as you needed for your stitching templates. So I would need 4 copies of this because I'm making 4 blocks. 4 blocks with A1 section as being part of that one small 6.5-inch block or section. So is that making sense? Hopefully everybody's still with me here. Oh. Okay, so that is brief. Now, I cannot give you the templates that I made at the present time. I am awaiting permission to be able to share the templates I make. There would be no charge for them. However, I cannot share that at the present time. So that's why I am showing you how to make your own. So if you want to go ahead and work on this one, then I would, if I had permission, I would share the templates that I have, because my templates look like this. Okay, and there is a particular reason. Like, this is all my dark fabrics for that section. And these are, I don't have that last block done, but I've separated my templates into light B section and dark B section. So when I go and I have A light, so I would take my A templates and my B templates that are light fabrics, and I can place them on my fabric and cut out enough to make the 4 blocks that I need to make my finished block. Now, I'm going to show you on, okay, light. Yep, okay. So that is a brief thing, and it takes a little time to do it.
It's 3 o'clock.
Thank you. My computer tells me what time it is, so it's 3 o'clock. We've been on for an hour. And now we're going to go to how would I cut my fabrics out. And of course, then what I did was I went through each one of my template pieces, and I labeled it whether it was dark or light, so that when I take these, I know that if it says light, that's light fabric. Whether it's from A or B, it's light fabric. So let's place these on, and we're going to use, what will we use? I don't have a, give me a sec. Anyway, we'll use this white fabric because, but now I cut my templates, and I know that I'm cutting with the right side of the fabric up. So I'll place it down like this. Now, what I found was, if you use the cutting instructions that they give you in the pattern, for each one of these sections, and I have 3 copies, I think 3, no, I have 4, because I'm making 4 A2. I'm not working with directional fabric, and so to minimize waste, they will tell you to cut a certain size. So when you place that, and it will be either a square or a rectangle, and it'll be enough to cover that section. But I found out that by using the templates, that's the wrong, right side. I want the right side up. By using the templates, I can place my templates on. I'm not worried about straight of grain. I can now place my templates on enough for 4 blocks. And I can cut them out all at once, put them in order once I've got them cut out. And for every section that they tell you to cut a rectangle or a square, you are going to save, because this will be excess or waste. So now I have cut those pieces in that amount of fabric. The same thing if I use my A3 section. I can place them on like that and cut out all the fabrics that I need for the 4 blocks. And when I go to do the sewing, it is just sew. Am I making any sense at all? Nobody chats. Am I boring? Is anybody out there? And again, I would just find pieces that are similar and that can go along here. And that is how I use templates to cut my fabrics. The freezer paper is going to hold them if it's odd shapes or whatever. That is how I do it. Oh, we can fit another A in there. And heavens knows this might be big enough to cut out something else, if not for this project, for another project. Let's see, I think here's A11. Look at that, A11 fits right in there. So I really have no waste other than this section here. But if I took this one and placed it on there, I can cut 2 A11 templates and not waste a bit of this fabric. Where's the rest of my A11s? What did I do with them? Oh, they're probably underneath. No, they're not. Huh. I lost my A templates. There they are, A11. So you can see by using templates how you can... Hi, Karen. Okay, no, don't worry about being late. You're never late. So as you can see, I have not... I have not wasted any of that piece. Whereas if I would cut a rectangle to that go on, I would be wasting a lot of fabric, because each time I would be cutting off a section that I could possibly use. And again, because I'm not using directional fabric and I'm not worried about my A sections, so I've used A2, which is, where's A2? So it's basically an inside section. There's no outside, so I didn't have to worry about straight of grain. Same thing with A3. I've used A3. A11. It is a section along here, but it is a bias anyway, so I don't have to worry about which way I place it on there. Yeah, Karen and I are buddies over at Chatterbox quilts. So, does anyone have any questions about that? I don't know whether, I can't see how, if anybody is even, other than Karen. Now it looks like, I'm not sure, but we have some people in here. I can't see on my big computer screen. Maybe if, well, no, I won't bother with that. But anyway, I didn't want to lose anybody, and I didn't want to confuse anybody. But hopefully I've explained a bit about how I go about making the templates and how foundation paper piecing does not have to be wasteful on fabric. Now, I have a question for everybody. I do have one block, but I think what I will do is anyone who wants to follow along for my, now I've got to take these off because I'm not going to be using this piece, but I will let you, if you want to follow along and download the pattern and cut out pieces or templates or whatever, I will come on live again and I will show you the stitching. You'll be rewatching my videos for FPP. You love my technique. Oh, thank you, Tracy. It was, you know, they always say necessity is the mother of invention, and because I cannot, my brain won't reverse, so I make everything reversed, and that is how I now go about doing it. But the thing is, I was afraid that because I can't supply the templates for this pattern, the cutting templates, the fabric templates at this time, because this pattern is not mine, I can show you how to put it together, or my process, and I can show you how I made my templates for cutting fabrics and less waste. The other thing is, when the next one I make, I want to maybe possibly make, Tracy says, yes, exactly, FPP gets me all turned around and around. Yeah, and even I still have to think about it. Once I got this part done, I have no problem stitching it together because it all goes together, just A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. So the other thing is I wanted to tell you is when I put my numbers on my pieces, when you are, here's my coloring sheet. So a lot of FPP I call them stitching templates. So you have an A stitching template and a B stitching template. Some will have multiples, and if you don't label each piece as a B, this is B7. If I had B7 and A7, and if I didn't distinguish between the two of them, B7 and A7 look to be the same shape, but they're not. They are slightly different because they are a reverse image of it. So that is why I always and because I don't want to see that reverse number, it just confuses me. A little black dot doesn't. The other thing is, when you're writing, if you have to write those on, like B7 and B9, make sure you are putting them parallel to the outside edge. Yes, and Tracy said someday she's going to take the leap and try making a huge elephant FPP. I have all the supplies, but I need to practice first. Pardon me, I just have to take a drink. I wanted to go back to this, is that when I'm writing my numbers in, I try not to turn them, because the way the numbers are facing, that is the way that piece of fabric is going to be in that block. So if I had directional fabric and I took A2, I can see if I'm sitting here and I'm cutting out A2 fabric, it wouldn't be cut out like this, or it would be cut out if I wasn't using directional fabric. If I was using directional fabric, I would make sure that that A2, it's facing there. If it was a stripe that I was using for that section, I would make sure that the stripes were going this way or this way. I can also decide that I want to put them on an angle, but that is a topic for another day. Now, I guess I could. I am going to schedule another live. Oh, my screens are all, no, I got to get back to me. There I am. So that's the other thing, is that the direction and having it, the template, you can now to, as I've talked about in other videos. Oh, I just need to read here. Tracy says, plus finding the time, Sunday evening, I'm going to a friend's painting party. That's all I need is another hobby. You can never have too many hobbies. When you can't do one, you can do another. What was I going to say now? Oh, it left me. I'll try to find it. So, what was I going to say? Oh, no. Oh, heavens. I'll think of it in a minute. There was something I was going to say. Oh, shoot. My brain has a leak. Does anybody have any questions about what I went through? Oh, thank you, Gladys. Another live. Okay. I will schedule another live. I'm not sure when it will be. I do have a B block. I know I have a B block because, no, I got an A and a B to do. Looks like anyway, because I've got fabrics for A and B. So, okay, I thought I did all one, but I guess I didn't. So I will show you in a next video. My other videos that I've showed you have been pretty pretty basic using FPP for basic quilt blocks. This one, because it has many pieces, yeah, that's the other thing is when you put two pieces together, so you'll have your A piece on the back of your fabric, and I know that this is A piece. Doesn't have, oh, I guess I only have one block to do. Yep, B is empty. Oh, so that's good. I only have B to do. But I'll show you on B template just quickly before I decide to do this. So here's my B1. And on this particular one, I would take my template, and I think I've showed you how you don't need a light box or anything like that. You just put a pin through there, put a pin through there, and that will position it on. The fabric is going to be in the right position. You take your template off, and because it's on freezer paper, you just iron everything. But the next trick is putting the next section on. That doesn't look right, because B2 is down here. And if I take this block, you can see B1 and B2. If I tried to put that up there, that's not right, because B4 needs to go up there. And so now with this, it's going here. When I'm flipping this over, I am going to show you a way that there are positioning points on, there's ways to tell, and it's a trick, a way to tell that you have that in the exact spot, and you're not going to be short on the fabric piece that we've cut from our template. It'll also work with if you've just cut the rectangular pieces or whatever. So that might be helpful to others who when they cut their fabrics from, who don't use this method, that they will take a scrap of fabric and to be able to know that it's in the right position, and they're not going to be short when they sew it on and they have to rip it out. And I must tell you that I very rarely have to, oh, you couldn't see what I was doing. Well, that was sucks, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's how, if you use a scrap of fabric and to know beforehand when you go to flip it back into the finished, when you flip it back into the finished position. So I'm just going to switch. Yeah, I noticed that. Too late. Anyway, so here it is. B1, that is in the right way, but it looks backwards, and that's because it's going on the back of the fabric, wrong side of the fabric, right side of the fabric. Flip it over, place it on. Like I said, you don't need a light box. You can just pin, and I call it pinpointing, and you use pins to go through the template into your stitching template, and you know you've got it in the right position. You iron it down, take the paper off. But what I was saying is when you go to put on B2, which is here, I was going to put it here, but B2 isn't there. B2 is down over here. It's actually over here. So it goes here, not here, and I can tell by just holding it like this, flipping it over, and there is B2. And it's the right shape. But when you go to flip it back, there are checkpoints that I'm going to show you that you can be almost 100% accurate that that is in the right position. But it takes me sewing a block or a couple of pieces together. Okay. Tracy says, "Oh, you are awesome, Shirley." Yeah, aren't I though? Yeah, no. It's I will tell you that I do not feel that I am awesome. I feel that I've learned from many, many mistakes when doing this, how I could get my brain around it and to save time and also fabric. And again, by using the freezer paper, the way I put things together, again, you don't have to worry about needles. You're not stitching through paper. You don't have to shorten your stitch length that much because you're not sewing through the paper and you're not tearing through the paper and tearing it off after. You're just peeling the template off. It saves, if you accidentally put a block or a piece on wrong, you don't have to pick out those tiny, tiny stitches. Your template isn't damaged. I save fabric, money on templates. It's just paper. And the paper, again, is like what I said, freezer paper. Don't throw away your scraps of freezer paper because they can be used for so many things. Cleaning up things, like if I had I think I showed you the last time too, if I had some threads or something on there, that just take a piece of freezer paper instead of one of those sticky rollers and just press it on and it comes off. You can clean your pieces off. What you can't use for cutting templates out of, you can use to clean up your area. The freezer paper it sticks to it, and you can actually peel that right off and reuse it. So it saves time, money, and I like to if I'm going to spend my money, it's going to be on fabric or thread. And freezer paper, of course. I can't forget. Oh, that's what makes me so awesome. Oh, you guys, that's going to go to my head. I can't show you my head now. It's all swollen. Okay. So I think I will call it a day, and I will come back, watch for the notification. I'm finally figuring out how to do YouTube, and hopefully I'm getting better at explaining things and not having as many glitches. So just watch for the notification, and I hope you found this interesting. I hope your day goes well, and I will see you in the next video. And what else can I say? Have fun sewing, for heaven's sakes. Go for it. And remember what my daughter told me. Life's short. Buy the fabric. We'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone.